Let's go watch Challengers. The movie technically releases this Friday, but it's an early screening. And hey, if I can see it early, that's what I do. This is supposed to be excellent. I will be the judge of that. Sort of. Let's go. Alright, let's talk about it. So that was Challengers, directed by, God, I can never get this man's name right, Luca Guadagnino, stars Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, and Mike Feist. Where to begin? So this movie essentially is about a love triangle. You have Tashi, Art, and Patrick. Patrick and Art are best buddies. They went to kind of a boarding school centered around tennis together, so they grew up playing together, playing against one another, and they meet Tashi Duncan. Tashi Duncan is an up-and-coming tennis star who just committed to Stanford, as did Art, and that's kind of sort of where the story takes place. You know, you have these two boys who eye this young woman. They're both interested, but, you know, only one can get the girl, and that's kind of, I can't really say much else without giving the whole thing, without telling you the whole dang story. Bear with me, I had to Google most of this because I don't know anything about tennis. I don't think I've ever sat and watched an entire tennis game on purpose. So my understanding is that a challenger game or challenger tour or what have you are games that kind of feed into the larger games like the US Open. So winning a game at a challenger game, again, forgive me if I don't get all the terminology correct, puts you in better standing to qualify for something like the US Open. So winning this game puts you in a better position for the big game. So winning this game puts you in a better position to get the ultimate prize. Now, what I understand about tennis is that there are 3 sets in a match. 3 sets in a match. Now, how one wins a whole match, I don't quite understand that whole part. Is it best 2 out of 3? Really doesn't matter. What's important here is there are 3 sets in a match, and there are 3 acts in a story. This story really is about this one challenger game and everything that's led up to this moment. So we're getting flashbacks. We're going back into the past. We're going 13 years earlier, 12 years earlier. We're seeing kind of the in-betweens of their lives, this love triangle, so to speak, and how we got to this point. How we got from, these 3 kids being 17, 18 years old, hanging out in a hotel room to basically being on 3 different sides at a challenger game that could potentially decide all of their futures. And I say 3 different sides because there are 3 different perspectives in this movie. We're one of the 3. We're either player 1, player 2, or we're a spectator. Those are the 3 perspectives that we get in this movie, and the camera reflects that. Even with the cuts, the way they go back and forth, we're either seeing things through her perspective, we're looking at him the way she does, or we're looking at looking at her the way he does, or we're standing back and we're spectating, and we're just bouncing back and forth. It's beautifully edited. I love the writing here. I saw one critic describe this as psychosexual. I would agree with that. Probably should have mentioned this from the beginning. I intended to because when I saw it, I thought, hey, I probably mentioned this, but then I forgot. So here I am. I don't know what it is with Hollywood and a man's cookies and cream. But at some point in the movie, we're in a men's locker room. I'm just going to leave it there. But back to the whole psychosexual part. That's what that reminded me of. This movie is so intense. And the tension, that's the driving force of this movie is the tension, and much of it is sexual tension. And what I find so very interesting is so much of the sexual tension in this movie is driven by our lead female. A woman's sexuality is a powerful thing. It can either be a force for peace or a weapon to wage war. And that's basically where we are with this movie. It's only April, but I have seen a lot of movies this year. I think this is number 43 for me. That's movies in theaters and streaming. I think I've only seen like 5 or 6 movies streaming, the rest in theaters. This is top 5 for sure for me. Now, as far as Oscars go for next year, I don't know where this would fit. I think there is an argument to be made for the writing. I know a lot of people are talking about Zendaya possibly getting, Oscar buzz for this. We shall see. Time will tell. But this movie is, I would say, personally, I would call this competitive. Where this movie is the most competitive, I would say sound. Definitely. The sound is a standout here. The way he, turns up the volume when it gets really, really tense. It's almost like a ringing in your ear, an angel or a devil on your shoulder when you know you're about to make a bad decision. He uses the volume of the sound and the music, this thumping, almost this sexual beat, to act as a conscience. I mean, this movie was just good. Now, as far as the acting goes, I'm trying to figure out what to say without giving too much away. So like I said, tension is the driving force of the story. But what also drives the story is our perception of each character. And the way our perceptions of each character changes throughout the narrative is very key. And in order for those changes to happen on point and on beat, the acting has to be on point and on beat. And it is. There's an interesting twist in this movie, but the twist I don't think is so much in the plot, but it's in our perceptions. When we start to really see things for what they are, I think that's when the twist happens, and it feels like this sense of betrayal because by the end of it, you realize we've been manipulated. Zendaya, no pun intended, but I imagine this has to be a bit of a challenge for her because the story really isn't about her so much it's about these two boys and their relationship, but she's the puppet master. So much of this story is dependent on her selling the role. She does it. From beginning to end, she does it very well. You have a lot of different sports movies, whether it's about soccer or basketball or what have you. But what makes this movie so different is that it was written and executed like a tennis match. This movie is a tennis match. I don't know how to explain that to you other than you have to see it for yourself. And it's worth seeing for yourself. Now, again, man, cookies, and cream. It's all out there, not quite Saltburn, not quite Poor Things, but there it is. I know your little tween darling is a big Zendaya fan, but baby mama, this movie is not for her. I've been itching to see this all week, I couldn't wait, and totally worth the wait. That was so good. That was excellent. That was cinema. Just beautifully written. Beautifully shot. I love the editing. I think the editing is going to be a matter of taste for some people, but I love the editing. I love the sound design, music design. The acting was superb. What an incredible trio. They sold it. They did the dang thing. Great direction. It's competitive. This is a competitive movie. I wouldn't say it's a standard setter, but it's definitely up there. That was just good.